The colony world of New Eden was beautiful in the morning light. Two suns rose over green hills and golden fields. Children ran through the tall grass, laughing and playing games that children had played for thousands of years. Their parents watched from farmhouse porches, drinking coffee and talking about simple things. The weather, the crops, the future. New Eden was humanity's proudest achievement, not because it was rich or powerful, but because it was peaceful. 40,000 humans lived there, and most of them were young. Families came from Earth and Mars and all the crowded places of the old solar system to raise their children under open skies. 80% of the colony was under 16 years old. It was a world of schools and playgrounds and summer camps, a world where humanity's next generation could grow up free. The year was 2347. Humanity had spread to 12 colony worlds, but they were still newcomers to the galactic stage. The Galactic Concordat, an alliance of 4,000 alien species, had watched humans for 2 centuries. They considered humanity a juvenile species. Young, harmless, and unimportant, humans were given basic technology and told to stay in their small corner of space. They obeyed. They wanted peace. They wanted to explore and learn and grow. Ambassador Rethval of the Zenthari Dominion did not share this peaceful vision. The Zenthari were an ancient species. They had ruled their sector of space for 50,000 years. They were tall and proud, with scales like polished silver and eyes like black diamonds. They believed that the universe belonged to the strong, and they considered humans to be vermin, breeding too fast, spreading too far, taking up space that belonged to superior beings. When Rethval's diplomatic fleet arrived at New Eden, the colonists welcomed them. First contact with a new species was always exciting. Children pressed against windows to see the alien ships descending through the clouds. Teachers planned lessons about Zenthari culture. The colony's small defense force stood down as a gesture of goodwill. It was the last mistake they would ever make. At exactly midnight, local time, the Zenthari fleet opened fire. There was no warning, no demands, no declaration of war. One moment, children were sleeping in their beds. The next moment, atomic fire fell from the sky. The bombardment lasted 4 hours. The Zenthari were thorough. They targeted schools first, then hospitals, then residential areas. They used weapons designed to maximize suffering, bombs that burned slowly, radiation that killed over days rather than seconds. They wanted the humans to feel it. They wanted them to understand their place in the universe. When dawn came to New Eden, there was nothing left but ash and glass. 32,000 children died that night. They died in their beds, in their mother's arms, in shelters that could not protect them. They died calling out for help that never came. The youngest victim was 3 months old. The oldest was 15. The survivors, less than 8,000, were left to wander through the ruins. Parents searched for children they would never find. Children searched for parents who had shielded them with their own bodies. The screaming did not stop for days. Ambassador Rethval watched the destruction from his flagship. When his officers reported that the operation was complete, he smiled and ordered his fleet to return home. He did not consider what he had done to be war. War was something that happened between equals. This was simply pest control removing an infestation before it could spread. The Galactic Concordat received the news within hours. Emergency sessions were called. Diplomats from 100 species expressed concern. The Concordat's laws were clear. Unprovoked attacks on civilian populations were forbidden. The penalty was severe. The penalty was a fine. The Zenthari Dominion paid 3 billion galactic credits, less than the cost of a single warship. They issued a formal statement expressing regret for any inconvenience caused to the broader galactic community. They did not mention the dead children. They did not apologize to humanity. Ambassador Rethval appeared on the Galactic Broadcast Network, the signal reaching trillions of beings across known space. When asked about the attack, he laughed. Humans breed like insects, he said. They will replace their losses within a generation. We have done the galaxy a service by reminding them of their place. They are not our equals. They are not even our pets. They are pests, and pests must be controlled. The broadcast reached Earth 7 hours later. In cities across the planet, humans gathered around screens to watch. They saw the ruins of New Eden. They saw the mass graves being dug by rescue workers. They saw the faces of the dead school photographs, birthday pictures, graduation videos, scrolling endlessly across the news feeds, and they heard Rethval's words. Pest control. Insects. Pests. Something changed in that moment. Something old and terrible and buried deep in human history stirred awake. For 300 years, humanity had tried to be better. They had ended their wars. They had healed their planet. They had reached for the stars with hope in their hearts and peace in their hands. They had looked at their bloody past and decided to leave it behind. But the past is never truly gone. It sleeps. It waits. And when the right trigger comes, it wakes up hungry. Sarah Chen was a school teacher in Singapore. She had lost her sister on New Eden, her sister, and her sister's 3 children. She stood in the rain outside the Galactic Concordat Embassy, holding a photograph of her nieces and nephew. "We asked for justice," she said to the cameras. "They gave us a fine. They called our children pests." Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with something that made the watching world shiver. They have made a mistake. They think they know what humanity is. They have only seen our smile. They have never seen our teeth. Across the world, in 1,000 cities, humans gathered. They did not riot. They did not scream. They stood in silence, holding pictures of the dead, staring at the sky where the stars waited. The silence was worse than screaming. The silence meant they were thinking. The silence meant they were planning. The silence meant that when they finally moved, they would not stop until the job was done. On Mars, deep beneath the red dust, ancient facilities began to power up. Lights flickered on in bunkers that had been sealed for 200 years. Computers awakened from centuries of sleep. Machines designed for war began their startup sequences. Humanity had buried its weapons after the last Great War. They had hoped to never need them again. They were wrong. The United Earth government did everything right. They followed every rule. They filed complaints with the Galactic Concordat. They demanded investigations. They begged for justice through proper channels. They believed, even after everything, that the system would work. It did not work. The Concordat Council met 17 times over 6 months. They reviewed evidence. They heard testimony. They watched recordings of the attack that made even hardened diplomats look away. And in the end, they did nothing. The Zenthari Dominion has paid the required fine, announced High Arbiter Velnos, a being made of living crystal who had judged galactic disputes for 10,000 years. The matter is closed. Humanity is advised to accept this resolution and move forward. Earth's ambassador, a man named James Wright, stood alone in the Great Chamber. 4,000 species watched him from their seats, most of them already bored, already thinking about other matters. 32,000 children, Wright said. His voice echoed in the silence. That is what you have valued at 3 billion credits. Less than 100,000 credits per child. Is that what a human life is worth to this council? The chamber rustled with impatience. A Zenthari delegate yawned deliberately, showing teeth like knives. Humanity is new to the galactic community, Velnos replied. You do not yet understand how things work. The strong shape the rules. The weak follow them. This has been true for 3 million years. It will be true for 3 million more. Wright stared at the High Arbiter for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, as if something had finally become clear. I understand now, he said. Thank you for the lesson. He walked out of the chamber without another word. Behind him, the delegates returned to their conversations. Some laughed. The human had finally accepted his place. They did not see the look in his eyes. 1 week later, every human embassy in the galaxy closed its doors. Every human merchant ship returned to Earth. Every human diplomat, scientist, and tourist came home. Trade routes that had operated for a century went silent. Communication channels went dark. The galaxy barely noticed. Humans were too small to matter. Their absence was an inconvenience, nothing more. Some species joked that the humans were sulking, like children who had been denied a treat. They did not understand what was happening. On Earth, something unprecedented was taking place. Nations that had competed for centuries put aside their differences. Governments that had never agreed on anything found themselves united by a single purpose. Political parties that had fought bitterly over every issue now spoke with one voice. The children of New Eden belonged to everyone. They were Chinese and American and Brazilian and Nigerian and Indian. They were Christian and Muslim and Buddhist and atheist. They were from every nation, every culture, every background that humanity had ever produced. And they were all dead. General Marcus Stone had retired 15 years ago. He had commanded Earth's defense forces during the last border dispute with the outer colonies, and he had hoped to never see combat again. He spent his days gardening and playing with his grandchildren. His grandchildren had been visiting their cousins on New Eden when the attack came. Now he stood in a bunker beneath Olympus Mons on Mars, looking at weapons that should not exist. Project Prometheus had been humanity's darkest secret, a collection of technologies developed during the resource wars of the 22nd century. Weapons so terrible that they had been sealed away rather than used. "Everything still works," reported Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's chief scientist. She was 60 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes that had turned cold and hard over the past months. Her daughter had been a teacher on New Eden. The quantum disruptors, the phase missiles, the singularity bombs, all functional, all ready. Stone nodded. "How long to build a fleet? If we convert every shipyard to military production? 18 months. Maybe less if we push the workers harder." "Push them," Stone said. "They'll understand." They did understand. Across human space, workers volunteered for double shifts, then triple shifts. Scientists who had spent their lives studying peaceful applications of physics now designed weapons. Artists created propaganda. Musicians wrote songs of grief and rage. Poets turned their words into war cries. The galaxy had given humanity advanced technology as gifts, believing that the young species would use it for exploration and trade. They had shared faster-than-light drives, energy shields, and plasma weapons freely. They had not anticipated what humans would do with these gifts. Human engineers did not simply copy alien technology. They improved it. They combined it. They pushed it past every safety limit and theoretical boundary. Where the Xanthari used plasma cannons that could destroy a ship, humans built weapons that could crack a planet. Where the Concordat used shields that blocked energy, humans developed weapons that ignored shields entirely. Humanity had one advantage that no other species possessed. They had spent their entire existence trying to kill each other. 10,000 years of warfare against their own kind had taught them things that peaceful species could never learn. They knew how to make weapons. They knew how to use them. And they knew that the only way to win a war was to make sure the enemy could never fight again. On the first anniversary of New Eden, Earth broadcast a message to the Xanthari Dominion. It contained no words, just an image. A human woman sat in a small room, holding a metal urn. Her face was calm, but tears ran down her cheeks. In her hands, she held the ashes of her daughter, all that remained of a 7-year-old girl who had loved butterflies and wanted to be an astronaut. The woman looked directly into the camera. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her eyes said everything. "We are coming." The Xanthari received the message and laughed. What could humans do? They had 12 worlds. The Dominion had 900. Human ships were small and few. Xanthari fleets darkened the skies of 1,000 star systems. "Let them come," Ambassador Rethval thought. "Let them throw themselves against our walls. It will be amusing to watch." He did not understand. None of them understood. The galaxy had seen humanity at peace, gentle, curious, eager to learn. They had mistaken kindness for weakness. They had mistaken patience for fear. They had never seen humanity at war. In the shipyards of Mars and Luna and the asteroid belt, 4,000 warships took shape. They were not beautiful like alien vessels. They were brutal and ugly, designed for one purpose only: to kill. 18 million soldiers trained in bases across human space. Every one of them had lost someone on New Eden. Every one of them had volunteered. There was no draft, no conscription, no need for orders. Humanity rose as one because they chose to, because the fire in their hearts demanded it. The silence continued. The galaxy forgot about the sulking humans. They would remember soon enough. Admiral Helena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching stars streak past the viewports. Behind her ship, 4,000 human warships followed in perfect formation. Ahead lay the Xanthari border, and beyond it, 900 worlds that did not know death was coming. She was 63 years old. She had served in Earth's Navy for 40 years, mostly patrolling trade routes and escorting colony ships. She had never fired a weapon in anger. She had hoped to retire peacefully, to spend her final years with her grandchildren. Her grandchildren had died on New Eden. Her daughter had died trying to protect them. All that remained was ash in a metal urn that sat on her desk, next to a photograph of 3 smiling faces she would never see again. Before the fleet departed, she had addressed the United Earth Council. The chamber was packed with leaders from every human nation, all of them waiting to hear the plan. "We will not negotiate," Vasquez said. Her voice was calm and cold, like winter wind. "We will not accept surrender. We will not take prisoners. We will not occupy their worlds, or steal their resources, or enslave their people." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "We will destroy them. Completely, permanently. We will kill every Zenthari on every world until there are none left. We will erase them from the universe so thoroughly that in 1,000 years, no one will remember they ever existed." The chamber was silent. Even those who had called loudest for war felt a chill at her words. "This is not revenge," Vasquez continued. "Revenge is emotional. This is mathematics. They killed 32,000 of our children. We will kill 18 billion of their people. For every human child who died in their beds, we will take 500,000 Zenthari lives. This is the cost of attacking humanity. This is the lesson we will teach the galaxy." Counselor Chen raised his hand. "Admiral, the Concordat will intervene. They have millions of ships. We cannot fight the entire galaxy." Vasquez smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "Let them try. Let them all try. We have spent 18 months preparing for this. Our weapons are beyond anything the galaxy has seen. Our soldiers are ready to die. Every human being alive has agreed. We will pay any price to ensure this never happens again." She turned to face a screen showing the Zenthari Dominion, 900 worlds glowing like jewels in the darkness. "If the galaxy wants to stop us, they will have to kill us all. And even then, the last human alive will crawl across broken glass to take one more Zenthari life. This is what we are. This is what they made us remember." The council voted unanimously to proceed. Now, as the fleet approached Zenthari space, Vasquez reviewed the battle plans one final time. The first target was Kethra Prime, a border world with a population of 300 million. It was a military hub, heavily defended, considered unconquerable by Zenthari strategists. It would fall within a day. "Admiral," reported Captain Torres, her second in command. "Zenthari detection grid has spotted us. They're mobilizing their defense fleet. 200 warships, standard formation." Vasquez nodded. 200 ships. The Zenthari considered this an overwhelming force. Against the old human navy, it would have been. "Launch the Vanguard," she ordered. 50 human destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward the Zenthari fleet. They were small ships, lightly armored, seemingly no match for the massive Zenthari battlecruisers. The alien commanders saw them coming and laughed at their foolishness. The destroyers did not slow down. They did not fire. They simply flew directly at the enemy. At the last moment, each destroyer activated its primary weapon, a quantum disruptor, a device that tore holes in the fabric of space-time itself. Reality twisted and screamed around the Zenthari ships. Hulls crumpled like paper. Reactors went critical. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles vanished in flashes of impossible light. In 11 minutes, 200 Zenthari warships became debris. Not a single human ship was lost. The destroyers regrouped and sent a simple message: "Target eliminated. Proceeding to primary objective." On Kethra Prime, panic spread through the population. The defense fleet, their protection, was gone. Nothing stood between them and the human armada now entering orbit. The planetary governor attempted to surrender. His transmission went unanswered. Human drop pods fell like rain. Inside each pod were 10 soldiers, armed with weapons the Zenthari had never imagined. Phase rifles that fired through walls, gravity grenades that crushed everything within 100 meters, combat suits that made a single human stronger and faster than a dozen Zenthari warriors. But the weapons were not what made human soldiers terrifying. The Zenthari were warriors. They fought with honor and pride, following ancient traditions of combat. When wounded, they retreated to heal. When tired, they rested. When outmatched, they surrendered. Humans did none of these things. Private James Miller took a plasma bolt to the shoulder in the first hour of combat. It burned through his armor and cooked the flesh beneath. Any Zenthari would have fallen back, sought medical attention, lived to fight another day. Miller kept fighting. He wrapped the wound with one hand while firing with the other. He fought for 6 more hours until blood loss finally dropped him. His last act was throwing a grenade into a Zenthari command post. This was not unusual. This was normal. Human soldiers did not stop. They did not sleep. They did not retreat. They moved through the cities of HFY Prime like a tide of death, killing everything in their path. Buildings fell. Streets burned. The screams of the dying filled the air. The Zenthari had never faced anything like this. They were predators, apex hunters of their homeworld. But they were not prepared for a species that hunted its own kind for sport. Humans had evolved as persistence predators, creatures that chased their prey until it dropped from exhaustion. They had spent millennia perfecting the art of war against enemies who thought exactly like they did. Against aliens, those skills became something monstrous. Within 24 hours, HFY Prime fell. Not surrendered, fell. The human forces did not occupy the world. They did not establish bases or claim territory. They simply killed until there was nothing left to kill. 300 million Zenthari died on HFY Prime. Men, women, children, elderly, it did not matter. The humans made no distinctions. They offered no mercy. When it was over, Admiral Vasquez broadcast a message to the remaining Zenthari worlds. This is the beginning. We are coming for all of you. Run if you want. Hide if you can. It will not matter. We will find you. We will kill you. And when the last Zenthari draws their last breath, we will finally rest. The message was received across the Dominion. 900 worlds heard it. 900 worlds began to understand that something terrible had been awakened, something that would not stop until it was satisfied. The Galactic Concordat finally paid attention. Emergency sessions were called. Diplomats who had dismissed humanity now spoke in frightened whispers about the fleet that had destroyed 200 warships in 11 minutes. They decided to act. They would stop the humans before this went too far. They were already too late. 6 months after the fall of HFY Prime, the Zenthari Dominion was dying. 40 worlds had been sterilized. The human fleet moved through Zenthari space like a plague, leaving nothing but ash and silence in its wake. No negotiations, no truces, no mercy, just death. Moving from star to star with mechanical precision, the Zenthari threw everything they had at the invaders. They assembled fleets of 500 ships, 1,000 ships, 2,000 ships. It did not matter. Human weapons tore through their defenses like paper. Human soldiers landed on their worlds and killed until there was nothing left. On the agricultural world of Vethos, the Zenthari tried a different approach. They gathered all the children of the colony, 2 million young Zenthari, and placed them in a single location. Then they broadcast to the human fleet. Attack us and you kill innocents. You become what you hate. Admiral Vasquez received the message on her bridge. Her officers waited in silence, wondering if this would finally make her hesitate. She did not hesitate. They used our children against us, she said quietly. They think we will not do the same. She turned to her weapons officer. Target the location. Admiral, the officer said, his voice shaking. There are children. I know what there is. Vasquez's eyes were empty, hollowed out by grief and rage. I know what I'm ordering. I will carry this weight for the rest of my life. But I will not let them use innocence as a shield. If we stop now, they win. If we show mercy, they learn nothing. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were wet. Fire. The world of Vethos burned. When news of the massacre reached the rest of the galaxy, the Concordat could no longer ignore the situation. High Arbiter Velnos himself called an emergency assembly. For the first time in 3 million years, the full military strength of the Concordat was mobilized. 3 million warships from 200 species gathered in the Vrendak Nebula, directly in the path of the human advance. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Nothing could stand against such force. This ends now, Velnos declared. The humans have gone mad. They must be stopped before they destroy themselves and take the galaxy with them. The Concordat fleet spread across light years of space, forming an impenetrable barrier. No ship could pass through. No weapon could break their line. The combined technology of 4,000 civilizations stood ready to crush the human menace. The human fleet arrived 3 days later. 4,000 ships against 3 million. The numbers were laughable. The outcome seemed certain. Admiral Vasquez appeared on the communication screen, her face filling the viewports of every ship in the Concordat fleet. High Arbiter, she said. I am going to make this very simple. We are not stopping. We are not negotiating. We are not turning back. The Zenthari killed our children. The Zenthari will be destroyed. Anyone who stands between us and our target will be destroyed as well. Velnos was ancient, powerful, and unafraid. You are 4,000 ships against 3 million. You cannot win. You are probably right, Vasquez agreed. But we are not trying to win. We are trying to make you understand. If you destroy us here, you will kill 18 million humans. But there are 11 billion more on Earth. They will build more ships. They will come again, and again, and again. You will have to kill every human being in the universe to stop us. Are you prepared to do that? The High Arbiter did not respond. We were peaceful, Vasquez continued. We were gentle. We reached for the stars with hope in our hearts. And you let them murder our children and called it a fine. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength. So here is our strength. Here is what humanity becomes when peace fails us. Look at what you have created. She leaned forward, her eyes burning with something that made even Velnos feel cold. Get out of our way. The Battle of the Vrendak Nebula began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. The Concordat expected an easy victory. They had overwhelming numbers, superior firepower, and the experience of species who had fought wars since before humanity's ancestors climbed down from the trees. They were not prepared for what they faced. Human ships did not fight like other ships. They did not form battle lines or follow tactical doctrines. They swarmed. They scattered. They attacked from impossible angles with weapons that should not exist. Singularity bombs tore holes in reality. Phase missiles passed through shields without slowing down. Ships that seemed destroyed would suddenly reactivate and crash into enemy vessels. Human pilots flew suicide missions without hesitation. Human gunners kept firing even as their ships burned around them. Human soldiers boarded enemy vessels and fought hand-to-hand until they were killed, taking dozens of aliens with them. The Concordat had never seen anything like this. Their war simulations had not prepared them for an enemy that did not care about survival. Their tactical models broke down when faced with opponents who treated their own lives as ammunition. The battle lasted 9 days. 9 days of constant fighting, constant dying, constant horror. When it finally ended, the Concordat had lost 60% of their fleet, nearly 2 million ships destroyed, trillions of credits in damage, billions of beings dead. The human fleet had lost almost half its strength, 2,000 ships reduced to debris, 9 million soldiers killed, but they did not retreat. They did not surrender. The survivors regrouped and continued toward Zenthari space. The remaining Concordat forces fell back. They had fought to stop the humans and failed. Now they could only watch as the remnants of the human fleet pushed forward, bloody and broken but still moving, still fighting, still killing. What are they? Whispered Admiral Kethros of the Volani hegemony, watching the human ships disappear into the distance. What kind of beings keep fighting when they have already lost? His aide, a young officer who had survived the battle through sheer luck, shook her head. They have not lost, Admiral. They have won. We tried to stop them, and we could not. Now they will finish what they started. And no one in the galaxy has the strength to prevent it. Kethros stared at the screen, at the distant lights of human engines burning toward their revenge. Gods help the Zenthari, he said, but there were no gods listening. There was only humanity, coming like death itself, unstoppable and absolute. The Zenthari Dominion had 300 worlds left. In 6 more months, they would have none. The last Zenthari world was called Zenther Prime, the homeworld, the beginning of their civilization, the heart of their empire. For 50,000 years, it had stood as a symbol of Zenthari power and pride. Now it stood alone, the final remnant of a species that had ruled the stars. 18 billion Zenthari had lived across 900 worlds. Now less than 4 billion remained, all of them crowded onto their homeworld, waiting for the end they knew was coming. Ambassador Rethval was among them. He had fled from world to world as the human fleet advanced, always staying one step ahead of death. Now, there was nowhere left to run. He stood on the balcony of his family estate, watching the sky. Somewhere up there, human ships were gathering. Somewhere up there, death was preparing to fall. We should surrender, his aide whispered. Perhaps they will show mercy. Rethval laughed bitterly. Mercy? We killed their children and called it pest control. We laughed at their pain. We taught them that the galaxy has no justice, only power. Now they have power, and they will use it exactly as we taught them. He looked at his hands that had signed the order to attack New Eden, hands that had applauded when the bombs fell. We created this, he said. We woke something in them that should have stayed asleep. We thought we were teaching them their place. Instead, we reminded them of who they used to be. Admiral Vasquez looked down at Zenthar Prime from the bridge of the Retribution. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, clouds swirling in patterns that reminded her of Earth. 4 billion people lived down there, going about their lives, waiting for judgment. For a moment, she hesitated. 4 billion lives. 4 billion beings who had laughed and loved and dreamed, just like humans. Most of them had nothing to do with New Eden. Most of them were innocent. But then she remembered the photograph on her desk. 3 smiling faces that would never smile again. A daughter who would never grow old. Grandchildren who would never know how much they were loved. Launch the bombardment, she ordered. The sky above Zenthar Prime turned white. It took 6 hours. Human weapons rained down without pause, turning cities into craters and forests into ash. The Zenthari died by the millions, then the billions. They died in their homes and their temples and their schools. They died holding each other, screaming prayers to gods who did not answer. When it was over, Zenthar Prime was a dead world. Its atmosphere was poison. Its oceans were acid. Nothing would live there for 1,000 years. The Zenthari Dominion was no more. Admiral Vasquez sat alone in her quarters, staring at the urn of ashes that had traveled with her through every battle. Outside her window, the ruins of Zenthar Prime glowed with the heat of destruction. It's done, she whispered. They're gone. All of them. She waited for relief. She waited for satisfaction. She waited for peace. None came. There was only emptiness, a hollow space where her heart used to be, filled with the weight of 18 billion deaths. She reached for a bottle and poured herself a drink. Her hands were shaking. Was it worth it? She asked the ashes. Did we do the right thing? The ashes did not answer. The dead never do. 1 week later, Admiral Vasquez broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Every planet, every station, every ship received it simultaneously. Trillions of beings watched and listened. The message began with images of New Eden before and after. Green hills and laughing children. Then ash and graves. The faces of the dead scrolled across the screen. 32,000 photographs. 32,000 lives. Then came images of what humanity had done in response. World after world, reduced to rubble. Cities burning. Bodies piled like mountains. The complete and total destruction of a species that had existed for 50,000 years. Finally, Vasquez appeared on screen. She looked old, tired, broken, but her eyes still burned with the same fire that had carried her through 2 years of war. To the beings of the galaxy, she began. You are watching this because we want you to understand. We want you to see what humanity is capable of. We want you to know what happens when you take from us the things we love. She paused, gathering her strength. We did not want this. We came to the stars hoping for peace. We wanted to learn from you, to grow with you, to be part of your civilization. We believed in justice. We believed in law. We trusted that the galaxy would protect the innocent. Her voice hardened. We were wrong. The galaxy taught us that power is the only law. The galaxy taught us that the weak are meat for the strong. The galaxy taught us that our children were worth less than a fine. She leaned forward. So, we taught the galaxy a lesson in return. The Zenthari murdered our children. Now the Zenthari are extinct. 900 worlds, 18 billion lives, erased completely and permanently. This is what humans do when we stop hoping for peace. This is what we become when we have nothing left to lose. Behind her, images of human history played ancient battles, medieval wars, world wars, nuclear explosions. The bloody, terrible story of a species that had spent 10,000 years learning how to kill. You have only ever seen one side of humanity, Vasquez said. The explorers, the scientists, the dreamers, the side that wants peace and friendship and understanding. That side is real. That side is who we want to be. Her eyes locked onto the camera. But there is another side. The side that survived ice ages and plagues and wars. The side that conquered every predator on our world and then turned on each other. The side that built weapons capable of destroying our own planet not once, but thousands of times over. We buried that side of ourselves. We tried to leave it behind. She shook her head slowly. You dug it back up. You reminded us of who we were. You woke the monster that sleeps in every human heart. She stood, her figure silhouetted against the burning world behind her. This is our promise to the galaxy. Humanity will return to peace. We will rebuild New Eden. We will raise new children under new stars. We will be your friends, your partners, your family. We will share our knowledge and learn from yours. We will walk softly among the stars. Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled every speaker in the galaxy. But if you ever touch our children again, any of you, any species, any world, we will not stop until your kind is a memory and your worlds are tombs. We have proven we are willing to pay any price. We have proven we are capable of anything. Do not make us prove it again. She reached out and touched the urn on her desk one final time. This message is not a threat. It is a warning. It is a promise. It is the truth of what humanity is, written in the ashes of 18 billion dead. She looked up one last time. Remember the Zenthari. Remember what they did. Remember what happened to them. And pray that you never see the other side of humanity again. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings sat in silence. They had seen the small, friendly humans as harmless newcomers. They had laughed at their weakness and ignored their pleas for justice. They were not laughing now. On Earth, humans gathered to mourn and to celebrate. The war was over. The debt was paid. The children of New Eden had been avenged, but the cost had been terrible. Humanity had looked into the mirror and seen the monster staring back. They had become the thing they hated, to destroy the thing that hurt them. In the years that followed, humanity rebuilt. New Eden was restored, a memorial planet where children played in gardens planted over mass graves. The human fleet was reduced, the weapons locked away once more. But deep beneath Mars, the shipyards remained active. The technology was preserved. The soldiers kept training. Humanity hoped they would never need these things again. They hoped the galaxy had learned its lesson. They hoped that peace would last forever. But they remembered now. They would always remember, and they would always be ready. The galaxy looked at the small blue planet called Earth and saw something new, not a young species stumbling toward the stars, but a sleeping giant that had shown its teeth and proved it was willing to use them. Some species called humanity monsters. Others called them survivors. A few, the wisest, called them what they truly were. A warning. Never again would the galaxy forget what humanity could become. Never again would anyone mistake kindness for weakness. The children of Earth walked among the stars once more, smiling and peaceful and full of hope, and the galaxy smiled back, carefully, knowing what lay beneath that gentle surface, knowing what would happen if they ever forgot.